now that, we have Ordinals that are starting to kind of bring back a culture of actually doing things that, like, it feels like I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope now that, we have Ordinals that are signs of hope that, we have signs of hope.
All right, welcome back to another week in the most incredibly exciting, fast-moving environment I've ever known. Anyway, but yeah, tonight, special show where we're going to talk to EoMGames about well, a lot of stuff actually, because I've known about what he's been up to in the space for a couple of years now. I think he's another one of these kind of fairly, I think, deliberately unsung heroes who exists behind almost every project that you know that has existed on Stacks. Certainly some of the most popular ones, EoM has been in some way behind it. But anyway, it's really great to have you here, man. Thanks for giving me some time so we can sort of chat about these various things. I mean, we're really here to talk about the Parrot Radio, but yeah, I just wanted to emphasize how many different projects you've worked on. Can you hear me okay? Oh, I think perhaps he can't hear me. Oh, I think I've gone into the wrong room. So I have gone to the wrong room in the Discord. Okay. So now I'm in the right room in the Discord, and now, hey, can you hear me now?
I can. So I feel like you're a bit quiet compared to earlier.
I was still chatting in the green room. Let me just go and have a look at my Discord settings, because I may have to change these again just to turn myself up for you. How about that? Is that sounding better?
It does sound a lot better.
A lot better. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just... okay, brilliant. So yeah, so I did a little intro. You may not have heard it there, but I was just explaining how you're behind a lot of different projects in the space, and it's not necessarily something that's that well known, but it's like most of the really big projects in Stacks over the last 2 years, certainly a lot of the early ones, you in some way, shape or form have been involved. And so I know that we're here to talk about Parrot Radio, but it was I just think it'd be really interesting to sort of go through a bit of the journey as to how you sort of how we sort of got to here, but also to cover all the myriad projects that you've been a part of, most of which are some of the biggest, best known projects in the space right now. So thanks for coming and giving me your time anyway.
Oh yeah, it's good to be here.
So maybe start with, how did you first hear about Bitcoin? Let's go to the very beginning of the crypto journey.
Let's see here. Well, I guess like some people, I heard about it pretty early, but I didn't get too vested in it for a while. I think in um, 20, probably 2014, I started looking into mining it because I'm a programmer, always working, on computer. I was working from home and stuff, and um, yeah, I was running by then GPU mining. Bitcoin had just become pretty much obsolete, so I was looking at Bitmain miners, and I remember Bitcoin going to 300. I think it was around $300, and I was just like, "Yo!" I was like, uh, talking to my wife. I was, "Yo, we should get some of these Bitmain miners," and yeah, she thought I was crazy, and so I never really dove into it, and then I just kind of you know faded out from the Bitcoin scene there for a while, and I remember working because I was trying to mine other things, because I didn't have access to a lot of hardware. I would mine um, things that are basically irrelevant right now, and I remember seeing in 2017 or something like that, somebody at the place I worked, he was wearing a Bitcoin shirt, a shirt with a Bitcoin logo on it. And I was like, yo, I was like, what do you know about Bitcoin? And like, he didn't know anything. He was just wearing the shirt because a friend gave it to him. And it kind of, sparked my interest back into it. So I started getting back into crypto in general, did a lot of trading. That's what I think it was like Coinbase bought somebody called GDX or GDAX or something like that. It was a trading platform that I had got into and started trading. I think I started trading with like $50, and then I kept telling, because I was in the options trading years prior to that, and I made a lot of money, lost a lot of money. I lost more than I make a lot, uh, and
Classic story.
with options. And then one day I got wiped I think it was an Apple trade. Uh, yeah, I was betting uh, in the different direction than it went, and so I got out of that, and then that's when I started trading crypto after a while, and I think I started with like $50. I told my wife, I was like, I'll start with $50, trade my way up, see if I get 100. I think I eventually got to 100, 150, and that's when I think I started making these charts. I was like, it's going up, it's going up, and so we started. I started pouring more into it, more time and whatnot. But inevitably, I'm a better programmer than I am investor, I think. So I started looking for ways to basically build in the system and in the space, and that's sort of what led me, uh, I guess, to that entry. I think I started with the real coding I'd done. I was doing it on Rootstock with a DeFi platform over there, um, and was kind of involved in the community. And then I think at some point I wanted to, I've always liked gaming, so I was like, well, NFTs I still wasn't into too much, but they started pulling me in that direction because as a lifelong gamer, I can see the use case of NFTs in gaming. So I started building little games and started learning Solidity because the rootstock is EVM compatible. So I bu-
Oh, We lost you there. Oh,
Yeah.
there
Am
you
I
go. You're back.
am I back?
You're back.
All right. Where'd you lose me? Just okay. So I started building like a little RPG type thing on Polygon, and then when I was watching a lot of games, and I heard about Moonray. So that's what really brought me into the stack space was I started watching Moonray a lot. Uh, I'm back. Yeah, so I was following Moonray, and I think Grace from Crash Punks did.
Lost you again
And
there.
was it Moonray?
There you go.
Huh?
Came back again. Sorry, you just keep dropping out there. I'm not sure what that was. Just
I'll
after
tell you what.
Grace.
I've been through an ice storm here. Like this morning, the power was out, so
Oh,
like
yeah.
I've got no problem saying it might be my end. Yeah, I woke up at
Yeah,
about
that
4
sounds
a.m.
extreme.
to a loud bang outside. I assume it was a transformer blew, and for about 4 hours there, I was like, well, but I got a buddy about an hour away. He's been out for over 3 days basically, and so I was happy when 4 hours later my power came back on. So yeah, it could be me on that side, cutting in and out.
I've heard that when
Yeah. Anyway, so
when
I
those
got the stacks.
sorry, you go on. Yeah,
Huh?
let's go
Yeah, I
on the
got the
stacks.
stacks through Moonray and hearing about Crash Punks because I was interested. I was interested in Moonray, and they were talking about Crash Punks having a special skin in Moonray. So I kind of dove down that rabbit hole, and then my I liked being close to Bitcoin even when I worked on Rootstock. So it was kind of a very quick take, basically, for me to pick up on stacks and kind of run with it. Got involved with the community there, and I think Eli was a mod at Crash Punks there for a while, and that's how him and I ended up connecting.
Interesting, through Crash Punks, because yeah, that was our first. With This Is Number One, that was our first sort of, I guess, feeling of hitting the mainstream, because everything we had done when we did the Genesis collection and the Hash Ones and the the Fatboy Slim stuff, it was this tiny community of developers, where we couldn't even really give stuff away that we wanted to give away. And when Crash Punks happened, that was the first time all these new people sort of arrived, I guess, because Trevor really knows how to do this stuff. He knows how to promote things properly. And between him and Grace, who just has this amazing art with this incredible storyline, this thing suddenly happened, and now we were not in this friendly development environment anymore, where an error in our contract resulted on some sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of comments about the code, and you better sort that out, whatnot. Suddenly it was like blood on the floor. There was some, can't even remember what it was now, but there was some small issue with the contract. But Friedger, bless him, turned up and was just furiously saying this contract's not it's not secure or something. And he's like, you've got to take the contract down straight away. And we had to just figure out exactly what he meant, and then quickly rewrite the contract to get it out. But it was the first time where people were there was anger in the Discord and stuff. It was all sort of it got very tense, and it was that was the first sort of, I guess, in positive way, first sign that the network was maturing. There was people coming in who weren't just supporters of the network, weren't blind supporters of Bitcoin and doing anything on Bitcoin. They were just, I've just heard about this thing, let's have a look. Mostly they were coming in going, how many transactions can you process? We were only just past, I think, anything like Crash Punks, any big collection went out at that point, the network crashed. One collection was enough. You were literally,
right.
If you were with the marketplaces or artists, you're looking out there going, look, such and such is launching on this day, so we better avoid this, or whatever. So it was all trying to sort of work around each other. to sort of figure out kind of release schedules that wouldn't crash the network, because there was going to be more than like 200 people participating at one time. So it just shows how far we've come now, and now we're moving towards obviously Nakamoto. But yeah, let's talk about Stacks Parrots. I'm just moving on to the Gamma page here for Stacks Parrots. But so this was one of the very early collections on Stacks. I think I must have been doing some stuff probably in the Discord or anything with Eli, with Crash Punks, but really it was through Stacks Parrots that I think he really came into my sort of into my bubble within the sort of Stacks environment. And it was kind of because he had just kind of ridden in like a knight in shining armor and had picked up what was effectively a rugged collection. And I mean, I don't even think I ever even knew it was a rugged collection until it was thriving again under Eli's kind of, the community was thriving again under his leadership, really, and just pulled it all into this, what was at that point probably the most engaged community in the Stack space. And there wasn't a lot of communities, but it was incredible to see what he did there. So that was what point in that sort of journey did you get involved?
Yeah, at some point I had just because I play with a game engine called Unity a lot. I threw together a quick little proof of concept that had some NFTs on a cube rotating and kind of like a little virtual gallery. It really wasn't much to it, but I sent it to him, and yeah, I think it had a Crash Punk in it. Yeah, they were like 2 or 3 Crash Punks on it, and they were rotating. Because I had this idea to build some sort of gallery even back then, and we're talking. What is it, 2021 April maybe? So because well over two. Yeah.
It must have been
time's gotten away on me on this stuff.
Sometime in mid 2021, yeah.
Yeah, like about was it 26 years in crypto ago.
Is it? I mean, it must be even more than that. I feel like we are at least equal with dog years.
Whatever. He hit me back and he's like, yo, this is really cool. He's like, I've got this thing, Stacks Parrots, and I had not heard about them. Or at least I think I may have heard him mention it on one of his like community calls with the Crash Punks or something. And I didn't pay it no mind until he told me. Go from there. So we had a call or two, and I don't know how long that span must have been. I don't know if it's a couple of months or 3 months or something. Where, like you said, it was basically the founders wanted to leave the project, and then he kind of picked it up, took it over, and then he kind of built another little team, including Albert. We know him as Zero, who I think he found Stacks through Stacks Parrots Instagram, and I think he minted Stacks Parrots, something like that, which is kind of funny because it's just the 3 of us now, and like how we all kind of like came together is kind of a funny, interesting in its own right.
Everything was so intertwined back then. This is one of the things I think I was trying to get across in the intro, is that it was a very small community, but the real players, the people who have stayed the course, are behind a lot of these successful projects, and you really are very much part of that glue, because you've been part of so much. But so Stacks Parrots, then there was a what came first? Because the first time I think I had seen you around in the community, but you weren't again within my real sort of radar until the Stacks Parrot gallery, which of course just had me. I mean, I was really kind of thrown by that at the time because I hadn't. NFTs for me was a new thing. I had seen it on Ethereum, but the stuff we had been working on in Stacks in the early days, with Mike Cohen was more. It was tooling for NFTs, but we weren't actually making NFTs. It wasn't until launch the mainnet that we actually thought, oh, we need to think about the products that we're going to be building these platforms for. And so the first time I saw your gallery and was able to move through a three-dimensional space on my laptop and see all of the NFTs in my wallet, and I could send the address to other people, so I could say, come and look around my gallery, and they could walk around, and then there was a player at the end, and so we could have music. And I at the time had done some of the early music NFTs on Stacks, and so we were able to have our own soundtrack playing in the gallery. And I just remember thinking, oh my god, that was the first time I think I felt little taste of the future, a kind of 8-bit taste of kind of what was to come, that this was going to get super immersive, super personal, super customizable, well beyond obviously what even that experience was. But for me, it was a bit of an eye-opener. So yeah, that was when the first time I kind of was like, okay, this guy EoM is doing some really cool stuff. Need to keep an eye on what's going on here. So that came before the next collection, which was the 3D Stacks Parrots. Is that right?
The two collections were already there when I came around. I think both the 2D and the 3D were by the original, or I think the original guys had them done. I don't know where they were done. I don't want to say Fiverr, but it could have been something like that, right? I don't think they were personally done, drew up by the original guys that had it. As cool as they are, but um, I'm not sure who actually did the art, because we never. I always wanted to get the. And this is, because I can say this because it won't happen, not like this anyway. What I wanted to do was I wanted to put the 3D parrots in the gallery. So when you're talking about the gallery, when Eli and I first, the three of us first started kind of throwing ideas together, I basically flat out, I was like, look, I can build this kind of stuff. Maybe this the direct, that's the direction I can kind of go. And I laugh because, like, when you talk about not hearing or seeing or knowing me being behind some of that stuff, it's frankly by design. I think I even told Eli in the very beginning. I was like, look, I was like, I'll build all this stuff. I was like, but I don't want to be the face of it, I was like, I don't want anybody to know I exist. Oh, and I don't know why I'm like that. I just am. Um, and super shadowy coder or whatever it's called. No, I'm not a super coder, but I think Even see for some reason. I'm trying to. I don't even see your screen at the moment. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. So no. Um. Yeah, I see what you're looking at, but you don't even look. Are you in? Oh, you need to put in an address. Here, put in put in EoMGames. Uh like connect. Now when we switch the website, um yeah, give me just a second. I'll get you. You can still go to like I think it's just stacks stack BTC. This is, you should drop you directly in either my gallery or whoever's. Yeah, I'm gonna send it to you in just a second. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna send you a new link. There you go. Yeah, yeah. Let me make sure you get this one, Jim. Yeah, so that was one of the whole things when we built the gallery. I was like, I wanted to make sure that it was linkable. Like if you wanted to share it, you could easily link it, and a lot of people did. You know, it was like, hey, come visit, visit my gallery, and not just something that you connected your wallet to and you viewed. It was something there for everybody else to come to your gallery and view it. Um, it's just a yeah, it's just an Easter egg. There's like I don't think there's any of the galleries that I build where there isn't some sort of Easter egg. So, um, so what happens? You were talking about it being new and different. It's the original gallery. I don't it had like a brick walls, a darker floor. It was I built all this the room that you're in and all that. The elevator was an asset. I found it was a 3D asset, but everything else I built that the 3D models, the textures I didn't build. But yeah, I remember when I built this audio video player that you're looking at. I at one time all the frames had the audio on it and you could play it from the frame, and I was like, well, this doesn't lend well to a decent audio experience because you know I don't know if you remember the old gallery, you had floors that you would go up and down and things like that, and I was like, what if you're somewhere else? I was like, what about a playlist? And then I started building that in, and yeah, we eventually got this, and everyone was really stoked about it. um, being able to kind of put together and then play while you're visiting gallery and stuff. Um,
I'm trying to play
this,
some now, but I can see it's not.
yeah, the controls are a little, they're not as great as what I'd want, and so you're running around what we call gallery 2.0. It was when we switched from the old gallery to this one. It was just tons of work I was pouring into it, and I was going to rewrite the music player experience where you had a UI that would pop up, and then you would kind of, much as you would create a playlist on any other music platform, it would be right there and give you a better audio visual playing experience. But I just kind of ran out of time, and just wanted to launch the Gallery 2.0. Um, so
So
we ended up just launching it the way it is. I built in a couple of things like the take screenshots because a lot of people were sharing them on Twitter and stuff, and um, music player that you're looking at right now gave rise to the Parrot Radio. 100%.
Yeah, it was just such a cool experience. I remember just coming in here the first time and just thinking like, yeah, this is Arno Carsten's playing there. So let's stop that now so we can hear each other. But yeah, super cool. And I remember, you know, again with having some music on there, it was just so it was just a first really amazing Web3 experience for me, walking through your gallery, being able to go up and down the floors, and then being able to, you know, even just your stuff, you can see some of the very old school NFTs you've got here, but you can have your, this is literally looking through your actual wallet, and that's something just people need to understand. This is inside an actual NFT wallet, and certainly on the Stacks network, this is like the rings on a tree. Some very very cool old NFTs from the early days.
Yeah, it is pulling directly. I think it uses Gamma's API, Stacks API, and you know, we just I built it. I didn't. There are some galleries, you know, like I think they were on Cyber and stuff. It started to come on the scene back then too, and my mind never went to a gallery that you would design or place, simply because I feel like I wouldn't do that. Like, if I had to go in there and make time to do that, I wouldn't have done it. But I realized that some people like to do that. So it's like, I think that's just going to clip through if you get too close. But
just to
as a matter of fact, with those, if you hit Q, like hit Q on your keyboard and then look at the click in, and then so it'll kind of tell you what you're looking at. Cool, and then you can open. No, it's not new. That was it was released day one like that. So you can open it on Gamma if you wanted to.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we built in things like that. Yeah. The original, so the old gallery too had something that anybody that remembers that wants me to bring back was the did you ever visit the crypt in the old gallery?
I don't know. I remember there being a different room.
Well, there was this crypt that we put. I really liked the Minotauri art back when the minnows had minted. I just kept buying them, and like I had a couple of people who were telling me, dude, it's a rug or something. And I was like, man, the art's great. I really like pixel art. I couldn't afford Megapon, so it was like way out of my league. So I was just picking these up, and I was working. And every time, like after I collected like a whole bunch of Minotauris, like every time I would like look up from my keyboard from working, there was like some bad piece of news kept hitting it. With the minnows, and like I kept laughing. I think Kaylee was around at that time. I was like, every time I quit working to look up and check on things, I was like, it just gets worse. I was so anyway, I made a video, and I was making the video of the gallery, and I passed one of my minnows on the wall, and I was like, I had this idea. I went and found the videos like on YouTube or in our Discord somewhere. I went and found a rug, and I actually put it in the gallery right below where the minnow had generated, and it was really funny. Everybody thought it was funny, but then I started thinking even further. I was like, well, we're already kind of culling some of the known rugs out of the gallery. I said, instead of completely just calling them, I built what we called the crypt, and it had one display, and it rotated through any of the obviously it was kind of centralized. We kind of was like, I maintained a list of what we knew was thought of as rugs, and like I think you would go in the crypt, and it had this eerie sound, music playing and things like that. It was really funny. and people want me to bring it back. But
awesome. I mean, yeah, that's the Easter eggs you're talking about, isn't it? I mean, that sounds amazing.
yeah,
We were talking a while ago. Dash and I were talking about with narcotics. We were talking about having, a fully sort of dedicated experience. Trying to kind of create a very much a themed gallery room that people could sort of go in, and there would be sort of. I mean, I guess this is looking forward to getting some of these NFTs that we've been starting to kind of build on Audionals, and now maybe we can build as stacks inscriptions, but NFTs that are games, and kind of creating like a kind of an arcade where lots of people are able to sort of go around and play different games in there, as well as look at art and listen to music, and combining all three into one. It's super exciting. And when I first saw it, it was it very much felt like a real moment for me of going, okay, this is the future. This is how things are going to sort of start to change. Oh, look, you got your that's Crash Punk's box, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, very cool. And what happens if I get in the lift? Oh, it's gone now.
So nothing. It's mainly cosmetic because you can hit N on your keyboard for the next floor, and it'll reload the floor.
Okay, so I've just gone to floor 2 here, but so this is if you've got an overflow from.
And it would transition the floor. It was just that was getting complicated, and I was starting to get burnt out and stuff. I was like, well, I'll just build a way that you can switch floors, because some people so every floor holds, I think, 64 NFTs, right, minus what you have in the player.
Yeah.
And the old gallery would actually load however many floors it needed, but then it would try to hide them. So it was very not performant, let's say. It was pretty, trying to do all this. I just built it where it grabs the next 64 off the API and then loads those. Is what that does.
Okay, so it was just a bit of a because I thought it was empty, but it was just a little bit of a delay loading up here.
That's our new Parrot Pass. That took the place of the 3D and the 2D art. That's the artist did that.
Awesome stuff. Oh, there you go. Some of the Chemical X stuff there. Obviously peppered throughout, but
because it literally looks like candy.
That's what gets you, is it?
Yeah.
Is that those weed monsters or something?
I think those photos by Longstreet there, Venice Beach stuff was really dope. I think that's sort of how I kind of got in touch with Longstreet. Was actually those other 2 photos of the girl in there or something like that. That was Onan, like Levi. He had started that collective, the Stacks Photography Guild, I think. And there was something like where if I minted that guy's photos or whatever, Longstreet also dropped airdrop me 2, or whoever did that 2. So I went and I immediately minted the 2 remaining photos of that the other guy dropped of that girl.
Longstreet is another one who is behind a huge amount of early and ongoing stuff.
Got Longstreet?
Yeah, Longstreet.
Isn't it, man? He touched everything. Yeah, and he was one of the instrumental in getting some of the music stuff kind of sorted out, especially when I went to do build the Parrot Radio. But yeah.
So let's get up to speed then and get up to Parrot Radio. Just going to start to it here. So yeah, the first I think I heard of Parrot Radio was shortly after I'd seen the gallery and we'd started chatting, and you said, this is a new thing we're working on, and it was like, oh my god, here we go. This is another another eye opener
Right.
coming. But then, of course, there was a lot of discoveries to make about how, how music is distributed, how music is consumed, and I think you end up having a lot of these discussions where people are talking about what you're doing, whether it's right or wrong, and I think that completely misses the point of being in this sort of stage of the development of a network. Is that this is where pioneers experiment and see what's possible and what's not. They discover what's not possible by doing it. It's not about sitting down and just discussing it and having a chat. Oh, I don't think that's going to work. Blah blah blah. It's all about getting it done, and then finding out what its strengths are, what its weaknesses are, what's missing. And this was just just another moment, another crossroad. Going, okay, this is the beginning of something. The evolution of a new way of doing things, and it's all been a journey of discovery. Because I know you guys started just with stacks, but then tell me about what happened from there when you started looking at ways to work with other chains.
Yeah, it obviously built on stacks. I was using sort of the same APIs, and we built all this in. I worked with a few people. It's kind of talking to the artists too about the perception of something like this. Like, hey, uh, I want to build this so people can listen to an NFT that they bought of yours. How do you feel? And I think there's that instant knee jerk reaction. We're like, well, what do you get out of it? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just built it. I don't know what we're gonna get out of it, and still don't. Because
that's being a pioneer. I think there's a lot of that. Yeah.
It wasn't. Yeah, I didn't build. I built it mainly because I had music that I wanted to listen to outside of my computer. I think I'm probably one of the first person that played some of those, like the Dr. Suss dropped like Topanang and stuff like that I really enjoyed listening to, but I wanted to listen to them on a real good system. Like one of my cars has a decent JBL system, and I was like, man, I wanted to hear it on there. So when I built out the early iteration of the Parrot Radio, I was so stoked to be walking around the house listening to it on my Bose headphones, or in the car driving, to Home Depot, I was doing a lot of housework back then. It was just a lot of fun. And knowing that other people were going to enjoy this too. And people like Longstreet and a lot of our stacks people were just like, dude, this is awesome. But when you cross that divide, which is Ethereum over there, there's a lot of pushback. A lot of people, that it's funny. Some of the people that want to be and are on the Parrot Radio now wouldn't even respond to me. They responded to Eli. I guess it's just personal. Like, I was just trying to tell people, like, hey, I want to build this. What do you think about this? Or what's your ideas? Or and some people just want to know how they're going to make money on it. I was like, well, I'm not making any money on it. This is for your fans. I think you're selling your NFTs. So
I mean, there's new business models are coming. This turns everything on its head, and this is all part of that voyage of discoveries. You have to see. I think once people get past this idea of having to keep everything under wraps about things being public, because actually the second you've released a CD, the second you've put anything into the public domain, it's public to people who want it to be public, who want to copy it and take it. This is all about improving the relationship, developing a relationship between a fan and their artists, so fans wouldn't dream of copying something because they just want to own it. And that's the
100%.
New world we're sort of moving into, where people need to realize this is a shift of what you consider ownership, of what you consider, a link between a fan and the artist that they choose to follow and that they choose to invest in. And if you're going to invest time in trying to just listen to music, then that's fine. You can find music in all sorts of places now, but if you're putting your time into investing in an artist that you really like, this is just how things work. People invest in any way they can buying merch. This is why artists sell so much merchandise from the on the road. People want to have that piece of it, and this now creates a really organic, direct link between artist and fan, where they can. It begins with music, but now in the Web3 environment, as we've seen with various technological advances, there's a lot more to an NFT than meets the eye. An NFT can be just a piece of music, but it can also be a music video. It can be all of those things lumped into one. It can be the lyrics. It can be the biography. It can even end up being a kind of a way for artists to actually send messages to fans via NFTs. I mean, it's like we've seen this with some of these latest Audionals projects, which I'm sure you're probably heavily involved in as well. In fact, I know you are. But the stuff that's been going on with the Bitcoin ninjas, this is really beginning to show off some of the things that can be done once you sort of get past that this kind of obsession with everything being directly on chain, and look at, yes, you can still have the art and the ownership lumped into one on chain, but once you start to invoke some Web 2 kind of magic into the mix, you can suddenly start to create these amazing shared and individual experiences for your community. I think I'm glad that we're moving beyond this thing where people would shout down any kind of access or anything involved with an NFT that wasn't all completely, coming on chain, because this is like the utility of what we're talking about here. Players where an artist can talk to the fan. Are we not going to make that just because the artist is going to die one day, and therefore this NFT isn't going to work the same way in the future because the artist isn't going to be there? I think we've just got to move on from all of that and allow the utility to develop. And certainly, you've been a big part of the beginnings of that with music, and now with advances with Audionals, because of course you've also been doing. In fact, just before we moved on to that, I also wanted to mention it was the main thing really with the Parrot Radio, was just the fact that it was on the mobile, the fact that it was just there in the App Store, and now it was like at the bus stop, wherever I was sitting, I could now jump in and listen on my mobile. And that blew my mind as well, because again, this was also back when Stacks was kind of unknown, that you guys did this. You got it out there, it was just incredible. Such an amazing thing to kind of see through to the App Store. I mean, that must have made you feel pretty proud, dude.
Oh, there's no doubt it was a big moment for us. I had never. That was the first mobile app, so we had to get a Apple developer account, Google developer account, and then there was Apple was pretty strict on what they would let, and I think I don't know if they denied it a few times, and then we eventually, was basically, I think they were worried about how they were going to make their money. I was like, well, we're not doing any sort of transactions or something like that. So, hey, come. What you doing? You want to say hello?
Hello.
There you go. That's my 5-year-old came here. Getting that on the App Store was incredibly cool to see. I think it kind of showed us like the direction that we wanted to take. It was just to get a bigger audience, and show people that that are buying music and that are enjoying music NFTs, that there are other ways to enjoy it than and at that time there wasn't. I think there are other ways to like play on mobile and stuff now, but they were, as far as I can say, they were not as consulted with the artists as we were. Like I went to, when we were on Stacks, when I built it first, I talked to several of the artists releasing. I don't remember if I had one-on-ones with everybody. But there was like, Longstreet I spent a lot of time with off and on. I think we had a couple of calls. I think I talked to briefly with Kilani about it and stuff. So once we got it built out, and we were like, well, if we're going to take it to Ethereum, that's a much bigger ecosystem uh, to uh, to give access to. So what we ended up doing was just working with the artist directly, and I think Violetta was probably the first one that we tapped, or the first one that was interested in it. And I think Eli can kind of speak better to all that, but I think it might have been months that we worked with her, and also we had a lot of bugs to hammer out in our system that were never exposed on the stack side of things. Because it's just too small. We brought in more testers from her ecosystem and worked a lot to get it ready before we ever announced prime time over there on Ethereum. But there's other artists now in there, and some of them are on different chains, and we've done a little work to support even more chains than just Ethereum and Stacks.
Well, so that's we can segue nicely there, because obviously the journey from Stacks to Bitcoin was something that we both were involved in from early days, and something that came up possibly around this stage of the journey. I guess we're moving to 2023, is Audionals arrived. And so maybe you could explain how Audionals first kind of came into your consciousness. When was it? What was the first time you heard of it? Were you aware of the ability to put data onto the blockchain with Taproot? I was very much sort of blindsided by this. I hadn't really paid enough attention. At this point, I'd become bored with the financial side of things. I was doing exciting things with smart contracts, and I had kind of just ignored what was going on with Taproot, had assumed wrongly that it was just to do with transactions, financial type things. So I really wasn't aware of what Casey was doing at the time. I would have been super interested had it kind of come into my radar. But at any rate, what's your Ordinals sort of story then?
Yeah, so I was I know a lot more about Bitcoin now than I did before Ordinals came out, for sure. I, I knew very little at the way it worked, especially at the transaction level. UTXOs and all that stuff was new to me, even after I started inscribing. Because I think some of my first inscriptions were from where I've been helping out, and I work at Counterfeit. Was Prism. He messaged me one day. He's like, "Yo, can you inscribe things?" And I was like, yes. So like, I tell him, I was like, I think I told him one time, I said, there's nothing I can't do. There's a lot of things I won't do, or something like that. Just kind of being facetious.
Yeah.
But I think in, was it late January or something like that? I forgot exactly when. Like I was watching like the Mark from Megapont had tweeted, was tweeting something about I think he was either making a joke or said something about the rocks that they were putting on, and I think that's like, this was all happening sub 10K, and I just kind of watched it because, all of us on Stacks, I think one thing was that a lot of us on Stacks kind of like more or less faded it because we were like, well, we're already on Bitcoin. I was like, we had the smart contracts already.
Yeah.
So I think that mentality kind of like took hold for too long before we were eventually like, oh wait, you really can put this stuff on Bitcoin. like it's actually on the main chain. Oh, so I think my earliest inscription was a pixel art version, a rendition of something that Arno did of Boozy. You're scared of me. Close the door. You can sit on the couch. Yeah, so it's like 38, I think, but I sent that directly to Boozy. So if Boozy needs to sell it one day and pay for his house and a Lambo, um, I told him
Nice.
when I sent it to him, I was like, I was like, if for any reason, like I don't actually think it should, but if it ever becomes valuable, I would be um, I would be mad if he didn't actually do something with it and somehow liquidate it, because I don't want to ever hold something like that over somebody's head. If I ever help them, succeed or something like that, I'd rather see them go on and be more successful than hang on to it for some sentimental. I'm not a very sentimental person, so it's like, man, do something with this. But yeah, so I think at 38 was probably 30 something was the lowest inscription I did on Ordinals, and so I had to learn a lot because I think you know running a full node, it took me days to get the index up because even by that point it was like a 5 or 6 gigabyte index, and then yeah, right now it's like the index is like 60 gigabytes, so it's like
Yeah,
tenfold.
this is something that's kind of kept me from kind of getting that involved. Is the node. Although interestingly, I've just found this one here, which I recognise this as being one of my friend's works, which is Dial. But Dial actually is running a node, and so has been helping me recently with some of the Audionals stuff. But yeah, I've seen how
Oh
much
yeah.
work it's taken. For someone who's not, naturally, used to setting up computers this way and doing this kind of thing with it. It's not easy, and if something goes wrong, it sets you back to the beginning, doesn't it? You lose a single block, you've got to download the
So
entire blockchain again.
yeah, I mean, there are a couple things going on here. One, using APIs, to inscribe is probably one of the better things to do, especially if you're going to try to inscribe like at on a larger scale. If you're just doing like little one offs and you're playing around testing, inscribing, on with your on your own is okay. And I did a lot of inscribing on the main chain, let's say.
Oh, I've lost you there again.
I think
You
I
came
did
back. Sorry, we just lost you after
huh,
you said main chain.
yeah, I inscribe. I think one of the earlier inscriptions I have is a little pixel art called strange bloom or strange blossom. Um, where is it? I put it on Twitter. It's like strange something. Yeah. Here, I'll link it to you. So I put this on just for fun, and then I inscribed some of my son's artwork, just because I needed I needed something to inscribe. So I was like, what do I inscribe? Um, so I think once I got it, once we hit like 150 or something like that, by then I was already helping Prism because a couple of our I think Boozy did some for Counterfeit. We did like some really early, and I think I got a couple. We may only have one or two. I forgot how many I did that were under 100K for us. And then I had last year I had taken a new job that I was having to commute. Well, I didn't commute daily. I would go. It was about 4 hours away. I would had an apartment, so I was splitting time between family, work, and then I was trying to help um, Prism and learn about all the stuff on ordinals, and then I had this idea to build the OrdiGallery at some point too during all that. So I was just I was just going, going ham on all this stuff.
My first experience with ordinals was, I think it was probably just as we were approaching 10K. And actually, I was a little bit wary, and so I didn't really jump in until a few days later. It was around 50,000. But at 10,000, my big concern was that suddenly we had a price tag on kind of shutting down the global Bitcoin network for 10 minutes. We now knew that there was a price you could pay to take all the space in a block. And I think I was more concerned. It took a little while for me to kind of come around to it. I think Manib said some stuff that I was closely following, and I think this kind of idea, returning to some of the first principles I learned about Bitcoin and its strength, lies in game theory, and the fact that you have all these players that are all sort of playing off against each other, this constant power struggle, which is really, Bitcoin is supposed to evolve and become stronger through these things, and it also clearly answered some problems for the miners. For one of these participants was mining fees was a big question, and suddenly this really was an answer. And then beyond that, we're now getting back to a point where now we're looking to these layer twos to say, do we really need to do all this stuff on layer one? We want the security and we want the perpetuity, the permanence, but that permanence is also itself going to be something that starts to spread into these layer twos. As long as Bitcoin exists, some of these layer twos will inevitably become sort of so intertwined with so many participants that they will be as decentralized as Bitcoin itself, I think. And so therefore we can start to move things off. But yeah, I had a bit of a sad day the other day because, my real interest with ordinals from the beginning was about code. And so my very first ordinal that I inscribed was a little piece of code. It was just a lamp that switched on and off. In fact, I'll see if I can find it. But so it was a little lamp that switched on and off. This is it here. Doesn't even fill the screen. But if you click it, it turns on and off. And so that was my very first inscription, was this little piece of code, just to see, could I make a little piece of code that'll just turn on and off. And after that, I then inscribed. I started inscribing some early. This is number one material to just to kind of announce that number one was kind of there, but I was very interested with the JPEG stuff in compressing it as much as possible, getting things as small as possible. And then we got the hash ones in there. I managed to get all 4,208 into this tiny HTML file, what was like 100 gigabyte collection. If it had been all created, all 4,802, if all of them had been created in the original collection, it would have been around 100 megabytes. And here it was on chain, on Bitcoin, showing every single image in that collection in I think it was a 4 kilobyte file. And it just felt really good to be kind of working on this kind of new way of kind of shrinking data. But yeah, the other night, when I very first started that, those first two pieces that I did, the lamp on, lamp off, and another little piece of code, I inscribed into kind of my OG wallet, which was, it was the wallet that I'd had in Bitcoin for 10 years or more. And but it's an old wallet, and so you're not supposed to use those for that. So I knew that I'd done that, and I was keeping an eye on them. And then the other night, I knew they were there in this wallet, and I went and looked, and it's blockchain.com, and I don't know exactly what happened, but I sent some money into a different wallet, but the change was then sent out of the wallet that had these ordinals in it, and they're gone. My first two sub 100k ordinals just disappeared just like that.
The change.
But yeah, it was.
Did the change go back to another wallet? I mean,
it went to a different wallet. Yeah, I don't know exactly what was going on. I tried to sort of follow it, but it looks like it's gone into an exchange wallet of some sort. In fact, wouldn't even say it's an exchange, but it's a number of transactions seem to come together. I don't know exactly what I did, but I sent some money somewhere, and somehow those ordinals left my wallet. But they still exist. This was another one I made with the 3JS stuff when it came out. Some sort of using the 3D libraries and stuff.
Yeah.
Was some super cool stuff was happening.
I built a clock, like an actual like a real clock that uses 3JS, and I was using, I don't know if I used P5 or whatever for a shader and stuff like that, and I kind of showed it to a few people. It could have been inscribed and stuff, and I was going to do like a little collection of them. This was like, I don't know, between 1 and 30 million, but like nobody thought it was interesting, but it was really cool.
Yeah, it was fun play. I'm just looking for one now because I did one which I think I called Color Blocks, which was watching the chain to like I have it out on my, because I've got my sort of 6 screen. I've got my old trade set up here, and it
was like a block clock.
You can see the number there. Yeah, like so it's basically, it's just a block, but it's the whole screen. Just see if I can get the number there. It's on my other computer, but it's like the whole screen is just a color, and every time a Bitcoin block is mined, the color changes, and it's just it's just a nice thing to kind of have in the background, because I don't have to look too closely at it. I just have, because I got these 6 screens, I just have a couple of them with this, and just the color changes, and it's just a big change that I notice, the periphery. And so I just like to kind of, know when blocks have kind of gone through. I can kind of be a little bit tied into the chain without being too involved, without sitting down and looking at an actual block explorer or something. Yeah. So it's a nice nice way to do it. And then I managed to do this the other night, which I was quite excited about, which was, it's still needs to kind of be brought to the attention of the Ordinals community, is this idea of what's going to be acceptable cross-chain, because this data here that's in this Ordinal is actually coming from Arweave. And so it's able to, obviously we still need to sort of, I think as a community, sort of say, how are we going to do this? Because there's going to be some sort of cross-domain, unless there is going to be an actual way that Bitcoin can see Stacks' state. I think we need to sort of figure out, what's acceptable. I understand we don't want to be making it too easy for people to inscribe ordinal data that's definitely going to just disappear off the face of the earth, what like might happen with IPFS or things. But I think with some of these permanent data storage solutions, like with Arweave, this music and a music video, I've got 1 gigabyte of storage, which is storing lots of different elements for this collection, and it's got its own money that's paying for it forever. It's got, I think it was $12, and that's enough money to pay its own way in that network to be mined forever, because the cost will keep going down year on year. And that $12 will, in the theory of Arweave, will never get spent. And this has got full resolution music. If we look here, just go on to make sure that's now sending. So it's got high resolution music, and then also even a video, and so we can have a live performance, high resolution video. So it's I think once we start really investigating what's possible here, this is the future of music distribution. Not only does it lay out the foundations for amazing ability for musicians to distribute actual albums, because also the other thing to notice is that the player for this is only about 150 bytes, and so even distributing directly in Bitcoin, you can still create an album that can play a whole album or even an anthology for about $1. And so that's a really cheap production cost for something that you can distribute direct in Bitcoin wallets. But I feel we're fast moving to a place where these things can actually start to happen on the layer 2. It's just going to be really interesting to see where things go, but it's really nice to think that there is already kind of layer 1 solutions that will work. I know from seeing this that despite CSP settings on a lot of other sites, the data flow of what I've done here works. You know, the Bitcoin, as long as I believe, and the owners of whatever this material is believe, that this is one perpetual permanent storage chain talking to another permanent storage chain, both solutions are nice and neatly tied up to look after themselves, then we can feel confident that these products will outlive us and will last for generations and will do what they're supposed to do, which is, in, you know, the initial sale is a way for an artist to benefit much more, have a much higher percentage of their earnings through distributing directly from peer to peer. But then in the secondary markets and royalties for musicians, these things do so much more, because these songs become you know, little payment rails. The songs themselves can contain all manner of information regarding, you know, the rights, the owners, who owns the samples, what are the percentage splits. All of this stuff can all be part of a song itself now, thanks to kind of ordinals and now other perpetual storage solutions. So yeah, it's very, very interesting where things are sort of moving to now. So you guys, moving back to what you guys are doing. So you burnt. I'm just trying to find the right one. So this was the feathery, right? We went on to next. Is that right?
So yeah, you're on the right track here. The OrdiGallery is another virtual gallery built for Ordinals himself. Our feathery collection was a burn from Stacks to the Pandemonium, basically, and we had new art drawn up by the artist, which did the all the art that you see, and a lot, you know, a lot, but all of it, even on the OrdiGallery side of things. So, yeah, the feathery was burnt. And we also built in. I built this OrdiGallery. Sometime, yeah, I don't know, middle of last year. You know, when things were kind of heating up on Ordinals. I was like, well, if we're going to be collecting on there, I was like, I wanted a gallery on there. And I think I was one of the first to actually produce a gallery, especially like this. And it's, I built, so all this stuff is done. I kind of learned Blender, built out the world. So the world's just, I can change it. I don't know if you saw did you see the Christmas editions that we had done there for a little while?
Sorry, I think the last time you showed me this, it was a castle we were looking at, I think.
So if you go back to the main site and you click on the collection galleries, you'll still see the castle. The castle is a special gallery for the Ordinal Knights, which is a collection. This is a collection for the honey badgers. So what we did is just the data feed that's feeding this. I just put in all the IDs, and it, like, if you hit R on your keyboard right now, it'll rotate and try to load all the frames with a random new ID. So you kind of so we kind of built, we got the collection IDs for this one, Megapont, and it just kind of started growing. And like, if you go back to the main or the page before it, you can click on several different galleries. But the one with the Ordinal Knights, go down to that one. That one's got the castle. Yeah. So yeah, if you like turn around.
Again, you had some animated ones, I think, on the outside, which was...
There's a couple of animated. That one's not animated. I drew all these. So like the dog one, he wags his tail. This one's... so go up to that one. The animation's a little slow in this gallery for some reason. I'm still I'll be working on that to kind of fix that. But this guy, he's caught in a slime, fights his way out of it. I think you're probably stuck in it now. You'll have to reload the gallery.
What do I have to do?
The castle is not something I built, and the mesh, the mesh that's on it, somehow pulls you into the little corner of the place
really.
whenever you get stuck in there. So, but yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, so that was kind of like the next stage up. I mean, do you have any more plans for OrdiGallery at this point?
I mean, I'm still working on it. As I get time, one of the harder things to support has been recursion. So there is some recursion support in there, but it basically only works on like one level deep, and it has to be referencing something like a JPEG or a WebP format.
Very cool.
Right now, what I'm trying to do is build in a display that can handle like any like basically load up. You can kind of think of it like an iframe inside the gallery.
I mean, that'd be very cool because then I could get my players in there, right?
So the only way to do that would be through this new system that I'm trying to come up with, because everything else here is just being rendered.
Oh, I lost you again.
JavaScript.
Sorry, I lost you again there. Everything was being rendered
to a mesh, which is just how it's displaying on the 3D space there, on the 3D objects. Okay. So like I wouldn't be able to render that player on what you're seeing, like where that Taproot wizard is. You wouldn't be able to render that player there and make it work. It might look like a image, but you wouldn't be able to click on it or interact with it or anything like that.
Right. Like this one, you mean? This one.
Right. Yeah. So like, eventually, my hope is to have kind of almost HTML type support, which would theoretically support any recursive ordinal in there.
Excellent. Because yeah, I've been working on some synthesizers and all sorts, which would be very
right. Cool. Well, you're talking about like the data.
Imagine multiple people being in there, being able to jam. That's kind of the dream.
That would be like super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think timing would probably be the biggest issue.
Well, I mean, the web audio API is just incredible, in some ways, and certainly with, but yeah, trying to play live together might be tricky. But we'll see. This is where we just have to. Well, certainly people like me, I don't like to take no for an answer.
Well, I think because I play with multiplayer gaming, there are ways to kind of, you would basically, your timing would be set from a server, and each of you would hear the timing. It would stream it back to the server, and then now how you would get that all done on ordinals would be kind of fun to figure that part out. I had this play with there's a technology, a WebRTC, where you can kind of do, it's sort of like peer-to-peer type networking, and go video calls and stuff using ordinals. I played with the idea like that recently. So that would, these cards are pretty cool. One thing that's one thing that consumes a lot of my time is working on this the platform, the back end and everything that powers our minting process and stuff at Counterfeit. I've built all that.
Yes, this is another project
at the moment.
Is at the forefront of everything right now, and this is another thing that EoM has been deeply involved in from the early days as well. But well before ordinals.
Yeah, that was basically my first reason to start inscribing was Prism. He's like, "Yo, can you inscribe? Or I don't know. He might ask me if I run a node or something like that. And I think I booted one up without even saying it, like, because I have like a NAV. Like people wonder like how do you get into Bitcoin? So it's like it's pretty easy. You run a node, but running a node can you can do it, just on your desktop. You don't need to buy extra hardware. Everybody's wanting to buy like one of those little Raspberry Pi and run a node. Like, dude, I've for 2-3 years now I've run a Bitcoin node on my main desktop. I mean, like, it's kind of simple. And then
That's awesome.
the Ord client is where things does get a little tricky as far as inscribing. And one of the reasons why I kept doing what I did at Counterfeit is because I wanted to build a simpler solution. And then when Luxor, what's his name, CB Spears,
Charlie Spears,
they did the
lost you there again, but were you going to say Gord.io?
More about that, but as far as I know, that was just an indexer, and it didn't have capabilities to inscribe, at least that I know of. So I started building. That's how our minting platform works. Is I just built a kind of a API in between the Ord client that you can use to inscribe and using Node.js TypeScript. It's built in. The dream would have been is like just to produce something that people could run and make inscribing much easier. But it's just the way it's currently set up. It just doesn't work that way.
So I guess just going back to kind of the Pandemonium and the various things you're working on, what's next? Like what do you think 2024 is going to really bring to all of us builders in this space? What do you think is coming, and what are your plans for the Pandemonium and any other projects that are sort of high on your list at the moment?
Good question. I think one of our key focuses, and I keep telling Eli, he's tired of hearing me say this, but I want to focus on something in more or less than being. I feel like even 2 projects, if you're trying to run 2 projects, it's just too much, and I feel like I like the gallery and how far in. There's so many things you could do with it, but the radio, the Parrot Radio, is actually where I would like to see us as the Pandemonium consolidate our time, at least for now. The biggest problem right now is I think we're waiting on feedback, and we need, because we need more feedback as far as like, what direction it needs to go. Like, what do we need to build into it that makes it a better platform? You see these platforms come and go. Even recently, where these platforms that spring up saying you can, you can play an artist NFT and you can earn tokens, or they can, get paid via tokens and stuff. And I'm very, I'm sort of, I'll try to make money on a token, but as far as releasing a token, like, I'm very anti tokens. Yeah, I don't see the point. That's so I don't think coming up with a new way to try to pay an artist or something, like for playing a piece of music on our radios, the answer. So I think we just have to work with that. Work with the artist on that. I think, like you kind of already alluded to it, the the artist is going to make their money from the fans. I think the platform itself that Parrot Radio can become is maybe an avenue that connects them at a much closer level than anything, like mainstream. Especially think about like Spotify or something. There's no way you could get that close of a connection with between an artist and their fans. So I definitely think we just have to figure out, what the app needs. I mean, to be honest, uh, it is sort of what, other than fixing the bugs and stuff. There's not been any real, cool renditions or anything on it. I think one of the latest things that we built in it. Now, I will say that I originally built the whole thing from the ground up, but um, Ciro Albert with us at the Pandemonium has been instrumental at extending it, and fixing bugs and stuff. So it's very much the three of us project, and I think we've long prided ourselves on how well we've been able to um, attack these projects with, using each of our abilities. I may have some knowledge or something where one of the other three don't, and then you have Eli taking care of a lot of the stuff that I frankly couldn't take care of, and um, Albert's just been instrumental in doing like some of the modifications to make the Parrot Radio work on some of the other chains. He built in some of that. So the oh yeah, I was going to say that one of the key things that we've done lately is, and we sort of released with this, but I think it's been improved a lot, is when you're talking about the data storage, like where does that data live? And typically whenever you go play that piece of music, even on the browser or in our radio, it does basically stream from some sort of a CDN that's probably backed by IPFS or Arweave or something. It could be any of those. But now with our app, you can actually just download. You can tell it to download all your music, whether it's an album or whether it's singular music. You can go tell it to download it, and then you can actually play it completely offline, so you don't have to be connected. It uses just your phone's internal storage that it reserves for the app.
Brilliant. Great for like long flights or journeys when you're going to be out of connectivity for a bit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the whole point is like to kind of, make it a real a music solution. Like right now, it's like you don't want blockchain music to feel janky, and so I think that's one of the things that we were trying to bring to it is like it's when you look at our website, with the screenshots and stuff, and you go use the app, it it has a native feel to it. It's not like once you put in your ETH address, which it's not like Wallet Connect, you just put in your address that you owned your music on, and it'll load it up from there.
Yeah, I feel like with products like this, like I get the whole thing with tokens, but I think I feel the same as you do, in so much as I think our job as builders, and it's one of the things I've been conscious of with Audionals all along, is that we need to build the tooling so that the users themselves can be inspired and innovate themselves. And by offering, the Parrot Radio platform, I think the sooner you can, start to be able to host, a bit like your OrdiGallery, being able to host code or being able to host things that are packaged in innovative ways, that you can start to become that hub where it's not just music that is traveling through this platform, but it's conversation, it's communication happening between an artist and their fans. And these sort of products are going to start to arrive. And I think, Parrot Radio is certainly well positioned to kind of be there to kind of, offer support for some of these music innovations as they sort of come onto the market. If that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, I guess, for us to kind of sit down and decide, where where to spend our next bit of dev time and whatnot.
I mean, something we didn't see in Stacks, you see, something we didn't see in Stacks, which we've seen in Ordinals, which I was talking to Gamma about for months, you know, trying to say, why can't I get this code? I can inscribe code on IPFS and it works, but why can't I get this into the marketplaces? Why can't I get it, you know, listed? And then Ordinals just show, yeah, well, this is what you can do, but we still were working, certainly within Stacks, in a across domain scenario, which wasn't a problem in Ordinals, and now also is fast becoming something that is going to allow for some turbocharged innovation with larger data sizes due to the reduced cost of Stacks inscriptions, you know, because now I've started playing around with that as well, with the idea that we can again kind of create recursive single domain programs built in a modular fashion, multiple components that can interact and have ever more advanced future components that will interact to build crazy machines. And now we can do this at a much reduced cost using the Stacks network. So these things, just every time I feel we have something to work with to get to the goal, the goal kind of gets wider, if anything, and there's more ways to do something. And I think we're getting to that point where this metaversal way of data traveling between chains is one step, but actually data within chains, you know, we've seen what we can do with Ordinals, and now what can we do on Stacks using the same recursive technology in now the Stacks nodes to have, you know, transactional data, effectively output data still, you know, that's able to now be picked up by code in the same domain and pulled together to do crazy things, but without having that enormous burden of cost. So I think, there's a lot more to come.
So inscribing on Stacks, is it done with a client, or are you just using a web API to do that?
You should have a look into this. I know that. So there's S Ordinals, which I've done some stuff with, but I think with S Ordinals, I was talking. I was talking to. I'm just going to have it's Trip and Monkey. I was talking to Trip and Monkey on Kitty's show. Going to have a chat with Trip and Monkey. Super clever guy. And he was explaining to me how, you know, the data when you're inscribing on S Ordinals is not quite the same. It's not actually, the data isn't appearing on chain, whereas if you inscribe with Stacks inscriptions, I can see the data is like formed into a hex in the mempool. You know, when the transaction is mined, there is a hex of my data that's in the transaction. So it's pretty cool. You know, it's like it's on the chain. And at the moment with Stacks inscriptions, I'm only able to inscribe it as a text file. So it's kind of back to a lot of stuff I was doing with Ordinals in the early days before anyone really had the UI for putting files in. I was writing code and inscribing it, and then it just appears as a text file because it's got, you know, HTML headers in front of it. It doesn't execute like the code that I built it as, because the UIs weren't there. So that code kind of works, but it's been inscribed as a text file rather than an executable file. You know, these are things that we just had to kind of go through and kind of learn. And now this is what I'm seeing with Stacks inscriptions, is that I'm able to, that data is there. I'm able to read that data and see that it is the full file that I put in there, but it's been inscribed as a text file. And so when I access it, it's read as a text file. But so now maybe what I can do is build a secondary program on S Ordinals, for example, which might be able to, although now we're talking cross-domain situations again, but that may be able to then read that text file from Stacks inscriptions, which is on chain, and now execute that code. So there's ways, you know, but it'd be nice to see Stacks inscriptions allow files to start being written. You know, it's very small files, but that's all we need. All I need is, you know, a few hundred bytes to start building modular systems that can start operating within that domain, and then we can start, you know, doing what we've been doing on Ordinals, but turbocharged without those massive costs, you know. And then, of course, we can still concentrate. We're still restricted to, you know, these transactions have a limit as to how much data you can fit in them. I think it's up to 300 kilobytes or something. So you're talking sort of 100x in what you can sort of do in terms of Bitcoin as an individual user, you can now take that entire allocation of 350 bytes or whatever with a single piece of code and start to build things together. And so I'm really excited to see where this goes, and I just feel like it's going to be, I can start working more quickly. And once I've got a working set of components that are working as recursive stacks inscriptions, then it's just one step away. It's just a one little execution for me to then if I needed to, if this is where we're still heading, which I'm not entirely sure, maybe the solution is here, but if I need to, it's going to be very easy to take that data in exactly the same form and just move it onto the other chain by paying more money. It's literally just a money thing at that point. If it works recursively in the Stacks network, then the same code will work recursively in a single domain on Bitcoin.
Yeah, just one idea. I mean, if all you're doing is testing if it works, then there are other ways to do that. Okay, that's how I was doing a lot of stuff, I was doing a lot of stuff on the main chain in the early Ordinals, but then as things got more and more expensive, I moved to doing it on RegTest, which is just basically a local instance of Bitcoin. It doesn't, you mine out 50 Bitcoins or something like that, and you do transactions. You mine them yourself, which you can run the Ord client against and actually build. I think if you look at the first pin in my on my Twitter profile, I linked a video of showing that how to do that. But yeah, so if all you're doing is testing, then you and I mean, if you're doing it for a reason and want to keep it on stacks, that's fine. But if all you're doing is testing to move it over to the main chain.
No, I mean, I think in the early days I was doing a lot of that. It was a lot of I was literally spending money to try to do something.
Both doing
but yeah, so here's the post you're talking about here. So yeah, I mean, now it's more a case of the testing is more modular, and so it's more a case of as I'm building something, it's like most things work, but do they then work the way I want them to? So it's more like that evolution can happen without it being really expensive or requiring days of going back over the code, because I don't want to, potentially waste $20, $30, $50, whereas now, it's a few cents really. And I can then, this program can evolve where it starts with these three components that kind of work, but now I end up with 5 different components, that just work better than the original. And once I've got there, I then go, okay, these are the 5 components we're now going to stick onto the layer 1 in order to access this utility or whatever we're doing on layer 1. But I feel that by the time we get there, perhaps the core will have kind of allowed for stacks to kind of become, or another layer 2, but for a layer 2 to have become something that they see as beneficial to the whole ecosystem. And then perhaps there is some sort of future Taproot type upgrade that actually allows a layer 1 and a layer 2 to kind of, see each other's states. And then we end up in another situation where now, you could end up with the Bitcoin domain being in the same domain as, like sort of like shared mining or something. I don't know where it would go, but I wouldn't put it out of the realms of possibility that we get to somewhere where there's, it's what it's like now is every time we're working on a solution, it's like a shortcut appears halfway through the work.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't doubt that will continue happening in the future, that as we're working on these things, every now and then there's a technological advance or some way of doing things that suddenly makes things easier and faster to do what you're doing. But yeah, it's just very exciting. You should have a look into that, because I think this idea of being able to do things in this environment, again with Nakamoto coming, 5-second transactions, it just feels like people are going to say, do I want 100% security, perpetuity, all the things that Bitcoin promises? when I have to wait for 10 minutes to do anything? Or do I want 99.999% of all of those things with 5-second transaction times on stacks? And it kind of feels like if people, give in and go, this is the same network. We have Bitcoin, we have smart Bitcoin. If I'm doing anything other than saving in cold storage with Bitcoin, then I'm doing it over here on the smart network, then it makes sense to me that all of this stuff on Ordinals is great experimentation and a proof of concept, but ultimately it's going to just price itself out, and there's not going to be a point, because once people do trust a smart network, and if SBTC does everything it's supposed to do out of the can, where it's like you're just instantly converting from cold storage to what am I going to do with this today kind of money, I think everything will just start happening on layer 2.
I have huge interest in Nakamoto. I mean, I've definitely lost a lot of interest in stacks, mainly due to ordinals and the time. But with Nakamoto, I have like a little RPG game that's kind of, some of it's on Polygon, but I wouldn't mind rewriting that into Clarity. But it would be fun to explore some of those options. Because I really do.
All the things we've seen, like some of the really neat innovations we've seen on Ordinals, can now quite quickly actually port upstream, port up into the higher resolution, faster transaction, easier realm of layer 2. All of these things, like some of the stuff like Jeff was working on, all those amazing things he was working on, that on-chain Ordinals game that he created, what's the other one, I can't remember the name of it now, Zen, the kind of ordinal internet of interlinked websites. All of this stuff conceivably now could actually happen on using these stacks inscriptions, all the way through to like an EVM style thing,
right.
So I think it just feels like a path I've seen laid out many times in the past. It's just the kind of natural evolution of networks and chains and mining networks, and I just think it's kind of almost predetermined that this stuff goes this way. So it's I think it really does feel now like the use case for layer 2 has finally been proven and experienced, and now there is a use case. Now there's like people looking for the solution. So exciting times. I'm really excited to see what this year brings. I know it's been tricky for the last year or so, for certainly for us builders in stacks, but I think the prophecies are about to come true. I think all those things that really excited us a year or even 2 years ago with this space are finally going to be proven right. So well done, us.
Cultivation, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see, that's for sure.
I mean, we've been over 1.5 hours now, so I think I'm going to kind of wrap it up, man. But anything else you wanted to kind of talk about or show us before we kind of call it a day?
No, just I mean, like I said, our main focus is going to be some sort of iteration, probably on the radio. I definitely always have. I always have these ideas that in my head that I've learned not to tell like Eli about, because that's all he'll ask about if I built it yet. He's like, "Hey, that thing that you said, did you do it? Did you do it? Did you?" So like, I have all these cool ideas to do and build and stuff, but like I have to keep them inside. And then, I was like I just need to write them down and just feel like one of these days, try to explore some of it, because some of it's just either too hard, or I just don't have time.
I think my hope is that certainly for some of these these projects that have been here for a long time, that when the market really returns, with it comes investors, resources, the ability to actually do things that you might have on the back burner. But I think for now it's very much about focus focus on being positioned
Surviving.
correctly, for surviving and being focused on what's your best position to be in when things start flowing again. But
Sure.
yeah, anyway, awesome chatting to you, dude. And
Thanks,
again,
yeah.
you know, you've been a good friend to me in this space. So yeah, thanks for that as well. And looking forward to seeing what you've got in the pipeline. So yeah.
Same here. I know I helped you out just a little bit during the beginning, but everything you've done is just mind blowing. You know, I laughed the other day whenever you talking to GoodKitty, and you're like, "Well, I'm not technical," and then I think I made that comment on Twitter. I was like, "Jim says he's not technical, and then he builds Audionals." So it's like, it's pretty fun to watch just you grow in the space as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
Big steep learning curve for me, but it's been a lot of fun, a lot of stress, I've lost even more hair now, but I wouldn't take any of it back. It's been a lot of fun working in such a highly innovative space and meeting so many like-minded people. So I'm very, very happy. So thank you, dude. And
oh yeah.
So with that, I think I'm just going to wrap it up. I think I'll just play a little song out, and then we'll be back next week. Still got Rare Skrilla's going to come back. He's been working on some cool stuff, but he's got a lot going on right now. So I think another few weeks probably. But then we're going to have some really cool stuff for Audionals. He's going to be building some kind of presets, and we'll be talking about doing some kind of on-chain remixes for release on-chain. So yeah, all of that sort of coming up. But yeah, going to leave you with this from the sequencer. Let's go back to there. Just going to play this out. This is the old remix, the only remix I've really had time to do, but using a bit of Italic and the original Audionals song and a few other elements that I've scraped from about 16 different URLs to create this song. So we'll play it out with this, and then we'll see you all next week. So thanks, and take it easy.
Ordinals that are starting to kind of bring back a culture of actually doing things that, like, it feels like I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are starting. I definitely see signs of hope that, you know, we have ordinals that are signs of hope